Hello and welcome to Salacious Celeste. I'm Sally, and you can see that I have just on my very broken old phone set a 15-minute timer. 15 minutes in terms of drawing is so little time, it's almost unimaginable. You can get so little done in 15 minutes that you really have to think ahead. So that thinking ahead looks like the size of the paper that I have used, which is an A6 postcard, and I have a 1 centimeter strip of washi tape around the edge just as a border. Kind of like a border on a postcard, but that's personal choice. You don't have to do that. I have the things that I thought I would like to use close at hand. So I've pre-selected the pencils, the pens that I thought I may want to reach for, so that I'm not spending any of that 15 minutes looking for things, getting up, looking on shelves, delving in pots, any of that. I had a good fistful of stuff around me. I've chosen for this 3-letter word exercise the word tea, which is not unusual for me because I am an absolute teaaholic. Do love a nice cup of tea, but there you go, I'm from England, so it's stereotypical. Because of that, I chose to go with mid-tone browns. That I'm using there is my Faber-Castell coloured pencil, a polychromos coloured pencil. They are my favourites, and it's in green gold. It's a nice mid-tone that sort of, you can see it when you're making a mark, but it does blend away into whatever you eventually put on top of it. So it is one that I enjoy making my first marks with. I think making marks in a mid-tone to begin with is a very good place, because you can see them, but they will blend away, and you can always add dark tones for emphasis. In fact, I use another of those pencils later on, almost near the end, just to sort of put some emphasis on the edge of the cup, and that is, I'm just looking at it on my desk, Raw Umber. That's also the Faber-Castell Polychromos, my favourites. I'm just drawing the tea in the cup. Now, this isn't fine art, obviously. This is not even in the same ballpark as fine art. What this is just waking up your brain, waking up your hand, bringing some urgency into it. It can be a fun little exercise on its own if you want to break your day up. If you just are, for instance, having a cup of tea, always a good idea, and want to just change the channel in your mind, it's a good way of doing that, livens things up. Or it's a good warm-up ahead of producing art that you are more serious about, something that's going to take a good amount of time. It just gets your hand moving, just gets your brain flowing, or perhaps gets your brain out of the way altogether. There is no space to stop. One comment I'm going to make about looking at this: the pen that I picked up, which is a Pro Marker, which was a predecessor to the Winsor and Newton. Oh no, I think they're still called Pro Markers. I'm looking around my desk as I say that. That's just why I'm stumbling and mumbling. This is an old pen, is what I was taking the long way around to say. But I didn't realise that until I put it on this paper. The paper's not really great for Pro Markers anyway, because it is a watercolour postcard, so it will suck that ink up and make it quite blotchy. But it's a 15-minute exercise, so I wanted the ease of pens. This one wasn't playing though. This one was scratchy and dried out, which is why I have now grabbed, as you will see, another one which isn't scratchy and growled up. I don't know what I'm talking about, which isn't scratchy and dried up, perhaps. So I've started at the bottom, very quickly going in and out of all the little nooks and crannies, and eventually I will blend it up to the top and make the scratchy pen that I started with, that was dried up, disappear. Maybe, if I were to add to my tips from earlier, try out your pens and make sure they work before you line them up. But it's okay. It's all okay. It's all part of the process. And remember, this is not going on anyone's wall. This is a process. This is something for your brain and your mind and your hand. So now I am just sort of starting to outline the cup a little, and it's a chisel point nib on this pen, which I find really useful, chisel point nibs, because you can turn them and get a lovely straight line, or you can have big thick marks that blend easily. It suits me. I don't personally get on with brush nibs so well. Maybe that's just me, I haven't had enough practice, but certainly with alcohol markers I do tend to prefer a chisel marker. This one has a double point, so it's got a bullet point on the other end, but I do find that I use the chisel point most of all, and you can see I'm turning it around all the time, just getting in the little nooks and crannies. But it is a real scribble, this, and it will be, because 15 minutes is no time whatsoever. The word is starting to pop out a little, you can see, and of course it won't get left there. I'm going to take that colour and I'm going to blend it up and around in a minute. When you are doing these kind of things, don't overthink. Don't get ahead of yourself. Learn to respond. Problems will arise. Like I say, I already had the dried up pen, so I've then just carried on and solved that problem. It will really help you to not fret, to not worry when you are doing art for real. These kind of exercises will have taught you to relax and to solve the line problems that may occur. You know, art is not perfect. It's not the point. You have to go with the flow, and this is a really, really good way of doing that. Almost there with the alcohol marker now, just getting the last bits of that background in and going back over where I've been, just to help blend the marks together, so I'm not getting the sort of chisel nib shape, but not perfection, not the right paper, was the right size, like I say, and it will all dry lighter than it is now. In fact, it dries to quite a very pale beige. What am I doing next? Oh, I see, I'm faffing about for pinks and reds and things like that. And I forgot to colour the hole in the E. Oh, the pink marker is out. I wanted to lay the base colours down fast. You'll see I did a time check there. I think I was about 7 minutes in, something like that, at that point. There is very, very little time for detail. You are literally shoving down colour, and your challenge is to get something that is finished to a degree. So no gaps, no half-dones, but certainly some fairly respectable base layers just in that 15 minutes. The rules are really up to you. When you are making art, the rules are, there are no rules. I'm going to cough, excuse me. But saying that, sometimes rules can be a good thing, because they create a boundary that you then have to respond to, which makes you have ideas that you wouldn't have otherwise. Without boundaries, sometimes you can get a bit lost. Sometimes things don't get finished, or you fret about things so much that you go round and round in circles. Talking of which, I've just done a sort of, well, it's not a circle, is it? It's an eye shape. But I'm doing some outlining on the cup, also in the pink. Don't try and use too many colours when you are doing these 15-minute exercises, because it will just take away from the time. Just doing a minimum detail with the pens in my hand, and the way I tend to work is to, how can I put this? I go on gut instinct for what colour I want to pick up a lot of the time, and then I will keep on using that colour until I don't see a place for it to go anymore. So in terms of that pink that I just picked up, it started with the lettering, and then I thought, oh, the outlining of the cup is calling to me to balance that, and it needed a little bit of decoration, I felt, and then I was done. I didn't want pink anywhere else, but they weren't really conscious thoughts. There was a degree of consciousness in them, but it was more sort of gut feel, like I've just taken this red and added some little dots just to balance that outline. It's about feeling the balance of whatever art you are creating, and although this is an exercise, very, very simple, very cartoony little exercise, it does help with those things when you are creating bigger bits of art or patterns, which is another thing I like to do. It is important that you get that balance, and I find that although there are rules, definitely there are rules for creating balance on a page, I tend to go with gut instinct more. I hand it over to someone else, somewhere else, something else, who knows, and channel what pen to pick up and how long to hold it for, I suppose. These were going to be little sprigs, and I knew the second that I did it on the T, on the letter T, that I didn't like it. But it didn't matter because it was a 15-minute exercise, so I went through with it because you can't leave it there, but not something that I particularly liked as soon as I'd done it. It doesn't matter, and those are the things that you have to learn to let go of. Bust out the acrylic markers here because they are good to put on top of stuff. Yeah, just making that that pattern that I didn't like even worse. Acrylic markers I find are very useful for going over the top of sketchy stuff, because they give you a layer that you can't produce with things like alcohol markers or coloured pencil. They're an instant hit, and I enjoy that, and then you can work on top of them as well. So I've gone all around the letters, given them an outline, not a very broad outline, and I am running out of minutes fast. I've decided to just put some dots on the background because it's a very sort of kitsch, stereotypical way of presenting teacups, polka dots, things like that, a bit Cath Kidston. But it works, and I'm on the home straight. I've only got minutes left, if that. Now I'm adding a little form to the cup, although it's not a very three-dimensional drawing. Obviously it's not an accurate thing, it's just a little illustration, very stylized. I am indicating some sort of form by using these pencils. That was, what did I say, it's the raw umber that I go and put the shadow in with it. Is that coming now? Yeah, there you go. That's the raw umber, and I'm just putting a little shadow under the saucer in the rim at the base of the cup. You tend to need a darker something so that your image doesn't float. You need to anchor it, just as you need highlights to make it pop. Even in the most simple of drawings, which this is, you need a little bit, and don't go nuts, of depth, just to weigh it down, just to sort of anchor it to the page, which is what I'm doing here. I've gone down the left hand side of the cup, a little way around the saucer, yeah, just to ground it in. And then I got carried away and I decided, because the clock was still running, that I would go around the dots. That's okay, just keep drawing. And then I thought, oh, I've got like 9 seconds left or something, so I'm going to see if I can beat the clock and get round the T outline. It was a little more than 9 seconds, I'm exaggerating, but there wasn't much time left, and I thought, right, I'm going to get round there and just outline these things, hence the speed and the beat that clock impulse came in at this point. Just adding a little more depth and some form into the inside lip of the cup. And is that me? Yep, cooked, done. So thanks for watching. Hope you might try this yourself sometime. It is great fun to do. Like I say, pick a word, pick the pens, the colour palette that you want to use, and just go for it. And it is actually quite addictive. Until next time, thank you for watching.